What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Christopher, otherwise known as General Spear here. Welcome back to another episode on General Spear Creates with the next episode of Obi Wan Kenobi's Clone Trooper armor. And today we're going to be working on the leg armor, specifically the thigh plates as well as the shin guards. Now, a little something before we get started. We also are going to be doing the boots, or rather we're going to be talking about them real quick. And let me get the boots right now. These are the clone boots that we're going to be using for this cosplay. I'm also going to be using this for other clone cosplays as well. Just run-of-the-mill white boots. These are from Cow Props. And they sell a variety of different boots as well as some other accessories. Clone boots being one of them, and they are fantastic. They're based over in the EU, I believe. I don't remember where exactly. I want to say Italy or something of that nature. But these are fantastic. And those are going to serve as our boots for this cosplay. I simply just didn't have the time or resources to do the custom job of boots that I would typically do, but that's another story. But what we're going to do is, of course, focus on the thighs and the shin plates. And we're going to be using a two-part epoxy today called PC11. There's parts A and B. You can get these at Amazon. It's a mixture that takes longer to dry, but it's fairly secure, and it bonds and seals the apparatus fairly well. So we're going to go ahead and trim these up, and as we do, like with all of our pieces and whatnot. Today I'm not going to use my Dremel because my Dremel is broken. I need a new Dremel. So we're not going to use the Dremel. We're going to go old school and use scissors and utility knife and everything. That's why I actually did the part of the last video on the torso with a utility knife as opposed to a Dremel because the Dremel broke. So that's going to be fun to deal with. But luckily, most, if not every piece so far of this costume is pretty much all set to go. It's just a matter of grinding through the last little bit and getting, going forward. So I'm going to get it all set up, and we'll see you here in a second. Okay, folks, once you have that all cut out, next what we're going to do is assemble the halves of the thigh plates. We're going to focus on that first and then do the calves. So, it's basically matching up the sides together, or the halves together. We're going to do one half first, and you can do the next half by yourself. But essentially what we're doing, and the easiest way to go about doing it, is assembling the outside portion first, or the longer half first, and then assembling the inside half. That just makes it a little bit easier because of this longer curved edge. So what we're going to go ahead and do is sand this up just a little bit. Just like so. Sand the inside of this. Get that all roughed up. Now getting clamps in here is going to be really interesting. So this is where a roll of tape might be very beneficial to have, especially for holding things down in the middle section where you're not going to be able to do so with clamps. So having that there is a good idea. But we're going to go ahead and lay a bead of glue down first. Basically just forcing it down like so. And of course with any kind of filler, whether it's Bondo or what we're going to use, the PC11, whatever sealant or filler you're going to kind of use, it's only going to reinforce the entire area here. And it's going to make a really strong bond for this entire apparatus. Think of the glue in this case more like a tack weld than anything else. It does nice securing it down, but the filler does a nice job of keeping it sealed, and it makes it look really nice and finished, because now there's a nice seam on the outside of this that we don't eventually want to see, so that's why we're going to fill it in basically. While that's all gluing down, we're going to attempt to do the other side here at the same time. Okay, so we're kind of just going to let that be for right now. I'm going to go ahead and get started on cutting up the calf plates now, which are very simple. And they are front and the back. And they look like so. So this is the left side here. And this is the left side calf along with the shin. And just like the arm guards, there are these little notches in the front portion of the shin that you can see right in there. Those are for velcro. So this is going to be your opening, basically, like that. Back here is going to be sealed up. Here is going to be your opening. So that's how that's going to work out. So we will go ahead and trim this as needed. There is a seam on the back half that runs right along this edge right here that we're going to cut. Same on the back side here. And then on this side, there is a seam that will cut right along here. But we'll leave this edge right here because that's what we're going to glue up against, basically. So we're going to go ahead and begin cutting those, and we'll get started here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the final steps basically after you do this side is essentially you're gonna do the same thing and tack down this side. Basically, this is gonna be a little flimsy initially, but like I said before, get some reinforcement on the inside and the outside, and it should be good to go. I'm gonna leave this as it is, all taped down on both sides, just until I can get some more reinforcement on the inside, and then of course we're gonna bondo it all up. And get both those sides going. So repeat basically both this procedure on the other thigh, and we're going to get to the shins, of which I've already taken the process and the time to trim down the shins, or the shins and the calf plates, and they should look like this. So with the back plate, the calf plate basically, it should be a nice clean line on the edge here on both sides. There should not be any of that extra piece and whatnot that originally went there before, because one of these sides, of course, is going to be bondoed solid, so there's no seam line. But on the other side, there is going to be a seam because of Velcro. So it's going to go together like this. So it's going to go on the shin plate like so on this side, and this is going to be the side that's going to be where it's going to be bondoed, so that there's no seam. You'll notice that it's just a straight piece of plastic. There's no divots or anything like that. So this is going to be the side that gets bondoed up. On this side, you'll notice that there are the divots, and this is where it's going to get Velcroed. So there is going to be a visible seam, but that's okay because that's kind of built into the design. Now, of course, you want to make sure that this is as clean as possible. So you want to make sure that this edge on the calf, especially for the inside edge here, this is the right side, so it's going to go on the inside of the piece. The left side is going to go on the left inside piece. You want to make sure that this edge here is as clean as possible, such that the edge actually looks really nice and cleaned up. Obviously, there's some cleaning up to do on the inside pieces, and you can go ahead and take that on your belt sander, or if you got a Dremel with a sanding bit, you can go ahead and sand that edge. But we're going to go ahead and glue up this side. This more or less works the same as the forearms, like we did a few episodes ago, where you are going to glue on this side basically and tack all this down. And then once that's all dry and everything, once there's a pretty good strong bond, we're going to bondo all this up. I'm actually waiting to do the entire Bondo process because I got a bunch of other armor pieces that I'm doing, or kind of redoing and cleaning up, as well as doing the final prep work for my Havoc armor. So that's why I'm kind of waiting to make sure all this is good. But we're going to go ahead and Bondo, or not Bondo, we're going to go ahead and glue this together, both halves, and that should go pretty darn nice. So what we're going to do a nice bead of glue all along this edge. We're going to do the same thing also with the thighs that we did before and tape it down, which I got to go get my tape. So, but that's all right. We'll definitely have the clamps to hold it in place. And the easiest way I like to do it first is line up the top. That kind of dictates where the edge is going to go. Now, don't worry about it being too messy, because it will get Bondoed over. But you still want to get a nice clean line regardless. I'm going to go ahead and get a clamp on this edge right down here. Sorry if the elbow is in the way. Now, unlike the thigh plate, this goes a little bit better together, mainly because it is a flat piece or flatter piece. And we only have to deal with gluing one side. The thigh plate can be a little persnickety, a little bit problematic at times, which is why you glue the long side first. Because if you glue the short side first and then the long side, I actually had the issue with one of my thigh plates for my Havoc armor where I did just that. I glued the short side and then the long side, and it was much harder to get a straight line. It actually curved a little bit and bubbled up a little bit because I was thinking I could heat it up and get that nice line, but it actually ended up bubbling a little bit. I had to do a lot of extra work on that thigh piece to make it flush. So on the thigh pieces, you definitely have to do the long side first, and then the curved side. Of course, make sure that you reinforce it, but that makes it a lot easier. With this, all it has to do is just glue it in place like so, and I am holding it together down with my fingers for a couple minutes, and that's pretty much all you need to do. And while that is setting up, I'm going to go ahead and not waste any time and do the other shin and calf plate as well. While I'm doing this, I want to talk to you for a little bit. First off, if you've made it this far in the series, if you're following along with your own armor, and if you made it this far, congratulations. Your armor is basically, at this point, more or less complete. But at this point, there are a few accessories left. Like, for example, all of the belt pouches and everything. Now, if you are doing your belt, if you are, using the belt that, of course, is attached already to the cod piece, then you don't need to necessarily worry about making your own belt. But if you're going to follow along with me and actually make your own belt, especially if you're building Kenobi itself, well, that will be next episode for sure. I initially said that this was going to be, or that, the next episode after the chest plate, or the torso section rather, was going to be the belt. And I thought it would be better if I did the legs first, and then did the belt and the other accessories as a separate video altogether. And I kind of tie in the torso even more. And it just worked out better this way for me, because I was still working out measurements, and I was still working out what materials I wanted to do the belt, which I have a better idea at this point than I did before this video. And so that's going to be next episode. Definitely keep the pouches and keep the detonator, because we are also going to be using those for the belt. So that's pretty nice. I'll let that set up. Luckily for the shins, though, you don't need to do a whole lot of taping. I'm actually seeing that it's pretty nice and flush. And the curvature here and the flat piece here should stay down enough for me to Bondo this edge entirely. And that will definitely help everything kind of, you know, keep in place. Extra security, basically. While those are drying up, we're actually going to go ahead and do the boots, which of course I talked about previously. These are from the these are from Cow Props, which of course, like I said, there's going to be a link in the description below, a direct link to these guys. And these, of course, are 501st approvable. They have the notches on the inside for anybody who's going for, I believe it's a tier 2 element, possibly tier 3. They're different tiers of detail, basically, and this is definitely part of that. Now, these are pretty fresh and new. I have not worn these a whole lot. It was more, I wore them for a couple minutes just to see how they fit and walk around them, and they're actually quite comfy. So I'm fairly pleased with how they are. Now, if you're making your own boots, I just want to show you something really quick. These are my ARC Trooper Havoc boots, basically. And these are Hunter Bay loafers, essentially. The structure of them is exactly how you see they are. I will link a description, or I will link the link to these shoes in the description below. They come in black. And there is some work that you need to do as far as getting them to the proper color. They do have the notches on the inside here. Not as deep and not as even as, of course, these guys, but these will definitely be acceptable and will work. And this is where Kevin Weir's headphones come into place. And feasibly, I could use this for my Obi Wan build, and I probably will. But having your own clone shoes in this case are also pretty nice. So what we're going to do primarily, let me go ahead and get the toe section all fitted on there. It's pretty nice. So what we're going to do is, the only thing that we really need to do to this is make sure that we are able to have our system in place for the headphones, essentially. Now, luckily, all that we need to do is pretty much tack down our Velcro. And what I like to do is actually go a step further. And even though I've taken out the adhesive here, I want to actually put a few dabs of super glue in here just to make sure it really stays. But what I'm going to do first off is position where I want these to go. Roughly. Because I want these fairly even. And we're going to go like so. And they do go down like this. And these kind of serve as the laces for the shoe. They kind of hold them in place. They're not actual laces, of course, but they kind of hold everything else in place. This tab here will go underneath the shin. So I can actually go ahead and take these off. It'll go over like so. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good right there. And what I'm going to do is, given I know where roughly I want this, I'm going to take a few dabs of super glue here, right around the perimeter, and a little bit in the middle. And we're going to go About like so. Now, the super glue is going to be pretty strong, but in case you need to readjust, it's a pretty good area right there. And we're going to follow the same procedure on the other side, basically. And you do want the circles... Do you want the circles facing up, or do you want them facing down? I might have made a little bit of a mistake here. Let me check my references real quick and be sure, and I'll get back right to you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, peeps, so we are back, and I have quickly fixed those. Pretty sure that's the way to go. They are Velcro, so if you need to flip them the other way, which I believe you do, I can't quite remember, because I just checked the reference, of course, but basically the circles go a specific direction. I believe these are indeed upside down, but if you need to flip them around, easiest way, untack the Velcro like so, and like that, and I believe that's actually the way. That looks a little bit more correct. Of course, I will put a little disclaimer in the video, probably about right here, which way it goes. And it's looks pretty good. And of course, that's more or less complete. That is your boot right there. Of course, it might take a little bit of, flexing and making sure that everything is kind of all together and whatnot. But that's pretty much tacked down right there. And then, of course, we can do the other boot, which is the same thing. And aside from weathering, which we'll get into in a couple videos from now, as far as the entire painting and weathering process, we'll weather these bad boys up as well to make sure that everything is all set to go. I don't want Kenobi's armor to look shiny, and I actually want it to look a little bit used and battle worn. So that's going to be a fun process and whatnot. But let's go ahead and, of course, check these out. These should be good to go, and they're pretty dry. So they look pretty darn good. That seam line is going to do pretty nice. And, of course, on the other side here, that matches up pretty darn well. And what I like doing is I like actually running Velcro along the entire inside here, and then taking Velcro in these crevices and putting them in there. And that actually holds things pretty well in place. Yes, there will be a noticeable seam line in the front on this side, but definitely, clean that up, of course, making sure that everything kind of fits in there like so. And it should be pretty good to go for the next step. Obviously, clean up the edges and everything. But yeah, we're ready for the next step of Bondo, which is pretty exciting. And so I'll get all the pieces ready for the next step, and we'll get started. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and that is pretty much it after all of the Bondo work. At that point, or at this point in the tutorial series, you are pretty much almost done with all of the necessary assembly for the main portions of the armor. We of course did the arms, including the shoulders, the biceps, the forearms, and the hand plates. Sorry, there's a plane going overhead right now, if you can pick that up in the background. We've done the chest plate, the abdomen, and the cod piece. We've done the legs, of course, in this video. Next video, like I said before, previously in this one, that we are going to do the belt. Next video, as well as the discs that are going to be on Obi-Wan's chest plate. Which are going to be very, very exciting. And I've already worked out how I'm going to assemble those, and it's going to be excellent. In the video after that is going to be the robes, doing the cape and the tunic, basically. And then after that is pretty much just painting, weathering, and final steps, which is super, super exciting. If you made it this far in the tutorial, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching, and congrats on your progress as thus far. But yeah, at this point, it's pretty much doing any necessary Bondo and sanding touch-ups, making sure everything's all nice and smooth. You may need to do it a few times over just to be sure. It's why, of course, I had the can of Bondo out today, just so I could do all the touch-ups. I also did touch-ups on the rest of my armor and whatnot behind the scenes, so that is all good to go. But thank you all for watching, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed this episode. Feel free, of course, as always, to Hulk smash that like button. Come in the comment section below if you're new. Do not forget to subscribe. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, may the Force be with you always.